tweet everything you consider and take pictures of the slides or whatever you want. So let's go. According to some authors, there is evidence that using social media can be really beneficial for the reasons that you can see in the slide. Acquisition of new knowledge, increasing the impact of your papers, connection with other colleagues, and improvement of your digital reputation. So I will provide examples of blogs, Twitter, and other networks and repositories as tools for scientific communication, as well as resources to increase the diffusion, visibility, and impact of your research. But first of all, a general overview on how social media is changing the world, especially the academic and research world, and the way we use it in order to communicate the science and to measure, and secondly, to measure research activity. Well, we have really evolved from the kingdom of the apes to the era of Homo sapiens. In fact, technology is causing a revolution, both economically, socially, politically, as you know. And due to the apparition of WhatsApp and similar applications, we discover the emergence of a new species, the Homo mobilis. Yeah, the Homo mobilis. Certainly, mobile technologies are changing the world, are revolutionizing the way we live. Today, we can see a lot of people with smartphones in their hands in the street, reading their WhatsApp and consulting their Twitter profile. And this phenomenon that is starting to become universal stimulates the imagination of some planners who are giving to the people that walk reading their smartphone the same treatment as bicycles. This has happened in the Chinese city of Chongqing, where a lane was opened exclusively for Homo mobilis. Yeah, it's real. And what about Europe? Yeah. The Dutch municipality of Bodegraven-Roybeek is testing a new system for traffic lights to signal to inattentive smartphone users whether or not it's safe to step out. The fact is that people is increasingly distracted with social media, games, WhatsApp, and music, and at the expense of paying attention to traffic. But in any case, I think that the future is mobile. Everyone carries social networking in their pocket because everyone has a smartphone. And this fact impacts in many areas of our lives. The way we communicate is changing, and this affects, in particular, the way we communicate the science, too. That the future is mobile is something that some experts, as Benedict Evans, thinks too. Evans is a technologist. He works in Silicon Valley, and he works on what is happening now and what will happen soon. And according to his research, close to 3/4 of all the adults on Earth now have a smartphone. And most of the rest will get one in the next few years. And then they will become Homo mobilis. Furthermore, the world has fallen in love with social media, in my opinion. Thanks to this graphic, we can see that, or we can get a general idea of how the internet community and social networks are growing very rapidly. As you can see in this slide, every minute, the users upload 66,000 photos in Instagram, for instance, or publish nearly 450,000 tweets, and more than 3 million of posts are published in Facebook. It's the digital revolution. And this revolution has reached also the academic publishing world, that is undergoing the most significant changes in its 400 years history. This slide shows one of the letters that Galileo, the astronomer, sent to Johannes Kepler, his colleague. The distance between Padua, the city of Galileo, and in Italy, and Graz, the city of Kepler in Austria, was 400 kilometers. But this letter arrived 1 month later. 400 years later, what happened? In 2009, the astronaut Mike Massimino sent the first tweet from the space. The communication was almost instant. So, in science field, we have evolved from a private and asynchronous communication to a universal, public, and synchronous communication. So currently, in addition to formal channels of scholarly communication, a wide range of informal channels such as blogs, microblogging, social networking sites are widely used by scientists to discuss their research or to communicate it to a wider public. And this was echoed in the journal Nature, as it published the results of a survey sent to more than 3,000 researchers about the degree of knowledge or the degree of utilization of social networks that they had. And these were some of the results. In light blue, we see the degree of knowledge, while in dark blue, we see the degree of utilization. The most popular tools leading the classification are Google Scholar, ResearchGate, LinkedIn, and Facebook, in the case of science and engineering, while in the case of social sciences, these tools are in the same top 4 positions, although with ResearchGate and Facebook switching positions. More results, as you can see in the slide. On one hand, the daily most visited networks are Twitter and Facebook, while Twitter is clearly the favorite network to post their own work. On the other hand, as you can see here, the favorite networks for sharing their work with their peers are Twitter, ResearchGate, and academia.edu. I would like to highlight another figure of the survey. Nearly 60% of the researchers think having a professional profile on any online network is very important for a researcher. The main conclusion of the survey was that researchers are increasingly using Web 2.0 tools to promote their research or to discover recommended papers, connect with colleagues, and engage in discussions. And this is something unthinkable just 5 or 6 years ago. The article contained a lot of examples. I strongly recommend reading it. Another topic very important. This revolution has also come to the way we measure the dissemination and reach of published research articles. It's the so-called alt metrics or alternative metrics. Briefly defined, alt metrics are indicators of impact and engagement that extend beyond the traditional methods of influence measurement. These new indicators for the evaluation of the research are based on Web 2.0. The basic assumption is that variables such mentions in blogs or citations on Twitter, for instance, may be legitimate indicators also for measuring the impact of scientific publications. Every year, altmetric, this enterprise, altmetric, publishes the list of the top 100 articles with most impact in alternative metrics. And let's see an example. Yeah, this is an example of altmetrics. This is the classic donut visualization of these altmetrics. This article was ranked 54 in altmetrics 2018 top 100 articles that was published last week. And among the institutions that have collaborated in this article, we can see some Spanish institutions. On the one left, on the left of the slide, we can see a list of 2.0 stats, such as mentions in blogs or citations in Twitter or Facebook posts that mentions this article. Is another way to measure the impact of an article. Many researchers are beginning to embrace altmetrics as an alternative impact indicator for the reasons that are shown on this slide, but I would like to add two more remarks. I think that altmetrics should be a complement always. Should be a complement to, not a replacement for citation-based metrics and expert peer review. Altmetrics, and secondly, altmetrics cannot tell us much about research quality, and this is something important. They do have some distinct advantage over citation-based metrics, in my opinion. If you want to deepen about altmetrics, in this ebook you will find a lot of information about how you can use altmetrics to find new ways to express the reach of your work, real-life cases, and tips for getting started. And finally, open science, a new challenge for researchers and research institutions. Open science is a movement to make scientific research data and dissemination accessible to all levels of inquiring society. Open science represents a new approach to a scientific process based on cooperative work and new ways of disseminating knowledge by using digital technologies and new collaborative tools. Sorry. According to the European Union and its framework program Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, the dissemination and communication of research results will develop a very important role in the future. And open science is one of the priorities of the European Commission. I recommend you to browse through this tool called the Open Science Monitor, and in particular to access here to the Open Scholarly Communication chapter. And you will find there a lot of indicators and case studies related to the open scholarly communication. We have talked about Europe. What about Catalonia? Well, I have good news related to Catalan government plan for this parliamentary term. These are two very important lines of action that the Catalan government will pursue. Firstly, a national agreement for the knowledge society. This agreement will be signed between universities and research centers and administration. And secondly, very important too, the establishment of a Catalan open science strategy, as other countries and regions in Europe has always done. And if you want to deepen about open science, here you have a selection of articles and resources about this emerging topic in English, in Spanish, and in Catalan. Particularly interesting, I think, are the MOOCs of the University of Delft and the University of Leiden, and the Open Science Training Handbook. I think that these three resources can be really useful for you. And coming back to Europe, what happens if you obtain an European Research Council grant to develop a project? This is really important. As you can see, According to Article 38 of the grant agreement, the project, the action, must be promoted actively, must be communicated in order to have a major media impact. And the project should have a communication plan that should include, obviously, social media. Apart from printed press, broadcast media, and other ways of communication, social media. Let me show you an example of a good communication project. This is an European project funded by Horizon 2020, whose web is very useful to communicate efficiently the results of the project through 2.0 tools. Its name is DigiWist, and the digital whistleblower, and it is a project led by the University of Cambridge with the aim of empowering society to combat public sector corruption. Well, I think that this web is really powerful because from a communicative point of view, because we can detect there are some key elements of an effective website: appearance, content, and usability. These are the three main factors. The appearance, because it's a site visually appealing and polished. About the content, it's informative and relevant. And about the usability, it's easy to read, to navigate, and to understand. A very good web in conclusion. We are about to finish this introductory section, and we will do so quoting Professor Miquel Duran of the University of Girona. This quotation invites us to reflect. Nowadays, having a good digital reputation is as important as having a good academic reputation. Professor Duran thinks, and I agree with him, that dissemination of research should, using Web 2.0 tools, such as blogs on Twitter, should be a routine part of the tasks of a researcher. And that it would be interesting also to develop a recognition or award system aimed at promoting the communication of science through social networks. In consequence, in this new technological age that we live in, we need to reinvent the profession of researcher. If scientists want to adapt themselves to this new scenario, they should acquire new skills and learn new tools and become researchers 2.0. And to summarize, if researchers want to improve their digital reputation and increase the visibility and impact of their scientific production, they should develop the terms of this chemical formula that involves the definition of a research 2.0. And what is the meaning of this formula? Well, this is not atomic structure discovered by the superconducting materials and large-scale nanostructures group. No, it's something more simple. This formula involves the conjugation of these 5 verbs. And we will conjugate them through social media tools. Let's examine the first one. The first thing you should do is listen to what is being said on the web about the issues that are of your interest as researchers. You must practice active listening. And to practice listening, let me introduce you a tool that is very useful for following other people's blogs rather than news and channels. Its name is Feedly, and it's a news aggregation application that compiles news feeds from a variety of online sources. So if you want to subscribe to a blog or to a website, if you want to follow a researcher, that has a blog, you must click on this symbol, the RSS symbol, and aggregate that link to Feedly. You will then receive timely updates every time the blogger publishes or the web is updated. And this slide shows my Feedly account. As you can see, the appearance is similar to a mailbox. You can see in the center of the image some of the sources to which I am subscribed and the latest news of every source. On the left you can see the labels and with the classification of the sources. It's a very useful resource, I think. I log on to my Feedly account every day to access the content that interests me, both for work and for other reasons, because it is an essential tool to keep abreast of what is cooking in our areas of interest. This is the second element of the formula, create, and we will conjugate through blogging. In some environment, there is the perception that researchers should have a blog and update it regularly. Why? Because it is considered that as public servants, they must disseminate their research paid with the taxes of the citizens. Sites such as PLOS, Nature, and Research Blogging are hosting platforms of such as specialized academic content, allowing researchers to discuss their work before a global audience. And universities and research institutes, as for instance CSIC, offer blog hubs in their institutional websites. And many researchers also rely on commercial hosting platforms, such as WordPress and Blogger, to exchange information with peers and to document their projects. This table gives an overview of some of the motives of the scientists who blog for different reasons. In summary, there are three main reasons to blog. Firstly, that our research has more visibility and impact. Secondly, to connect and stay in touch with colleagues. And finally, to acquire new knowledge and be aware of what is cooking in our field of expertise. And furthermore, especially, a blog allows you to create your personal brand and open up the possibility of attaining media influence, because increasingly the media fix their attention on social networks, on blogs, and with breaking news, the blog can be a platform to exhibit your opinion. This is an example of a researcher's blog. His name is Dr. Thomas Crousier. Thomas Crousier is a researcher experienced in the fields of biomaterials and biopolymers. I like this blog. The structure is nice. He shows in his blog, apart from his articles, his curriculum, his publications, his outreach, very important too, his social media profiles. A blog is really important in order to build our digital reputation. We must specify clearly our current position, our education, fellowships, and obviously social media profiles. Furthermore, a passion for new technologies of Dr. Crousier has led him to maintain this blog about new online tools that are revolutionizing the way science is done in academia. This is a second blog of Dr. Crousier that I recommend because he writes it to promote the use of these new tools. It's a repository. There are hundreds of tools here that can help you. A visit to his blog, to this second blog, is also very recommendable. But does science blogging still matter? Somebody is asking this question. Science blogs has been around since the early 2000s, and in recent years, Twitter and other social media channels, which require less time to maintain than does a full blog, threaten to make blogging obsolete. But as you can see, if you read this article published in Nature, some scientists are still keeping the practice alive. In this article, you will find a lot of some interesting examples of blogger scientists. This is a guide that can be useful also to demonstrate the benefits of blogging in academia, how to get started, key pointers to help make your blog a success. And I want to recommend also, finally, this blog. It's the blog of the London School of Economics, LSE. The title is LSE Impact Blog. It has prestigious collaborators from academia who write about all sorts of topics, especially about open access to publications and about how social media networks are transforming the way it communicates research. I want to recommend specifically that you read this post where the author, Duncan Green, outlines the major arguments for taking blogging and social media seriously if you are an academic or a researcher. And here you have some references if you want to deepen. I recommend reading these 5 articles and especially follow Patrick Dunleavy. He's a great blogger. And in particular, I also recommend the last one. The authors consider the various different types of blog and how each might be used by academics and researchers. Okay, this is the third important verb, communicate. And we will conjugate it through Twitter. Twitter, as you know, is a social media platform for short messages that allows their users to send and read text messages, originally with a maximum length of 250 characters. What is certain is that Twitter is consolidating as a communication tool in research. In fact, with regard to Twitter, there are a lot of studies that show that researchers who disseminate their articles using this resource see a considerable increase in the number of downloads or citations of their articles. And this is one of these studies. In this post, Melissa Terras of University College London shows how disseminating an article through the social media increases the number of downloads, in some cases as much as tenfold. The image above shows the top 10 papers downloaded from her entire department. Every color corresponds to an article. But look at the spikes. The spikes, that's where she blogs and tweets about her research. As we can see, the number of downloads increase in a proportion from 5 to 10. And what's this? Let's analyze the anatomy of a tweet. This is an example of a tweet sent from ICMAB profile on Twitter. Usually the structure of a tweet is very simple. A descriptive text plus a link plus one or more labels or hashtags. In this case, the text is about an information published in PCCP, and it includes 3 hashtags, which can be identified by the hashtag symbol at the beginning of the word. A hashtag is a tag that allows us to categorize the tweet and indicates what topic we are talking about. This is very important because on the one hand, we can see what is being said on Twitter about a given topic, and on the other hand, it lets us know what the trending topic is. Trending topic. That is to say, the topic we are talking about most widely on Twitter at a time and in a particular place. Let me introduce you a researcher that uses this tool very efficiently. Professor Martí Casals. He is biostatician in Universitat de Vic. In the first tweet, he talks about a paper that he published, short text, mention of the journal, 3 hashtags, a perfect tweet, in my opinion. And the second one is also very good because it appeals to our emotions. He expresses his gratitude because one of his papers has been accepted. And these tweets where there is a certain emotional charge and that shows that behind the tweet there is a human being are usually very well received as it reveals the following stats. 6 retweets and 14 likes. These 3 articles, 1, 2, 3, were published in the PLOS journal. This is a lecture recommendation. The author, Atif Kukaswadia, he is an epidemiologist, and he started using Twitter, and he found this tool so useful that he decided to post about the reasons why researchers should be using Twitter. These are the reasons that he developed in these articles. Basically, Twitter as a source of information, Twitter as a practical resource in conferences, congresses, and meetings. This is one of the best reasons to join Twitter, in my opinion. Twitter to support learning, and Twitter as a tool to disseminate our research. I will focus on the third reason, the use of Twitter in conferences. This is the website of our materials congress, and that will be held on Vienna next year. And this is the hashtag that people must use if they want to talk about this conference on Twitter, according to the organization. So if we use the Twitter searcher, we can follow all the conversation about this hashtag, about how researchers are preparing this congress. During the celebration of the conference, Twitter is very useful because you can follow in real time the conference by using this hashtag. Using Twitter, you can join conversations with other delegates, as well as organize meetings, for example. Especially for graduate students or who may not have the time or funds to go, this is a great way, in my opinion, to remain involved. So if you're not at a conference, you can still be involved. Finally, to finish this chapter, when you are more familiar with Twitter, I recommend TweetDeck, this resource, TweetDeck, to manage your account, of your accounts if you have more than one. It's a desktop application that is controlled through your original Twitter account and has a lot of functions. TweetDeck. Okay, you're a researcher, you have just signed a Twitter profile. Now what? That's the question. Fortunately, several institutions have published Twitter guides to promote its use in academia and in research. The first guide on the left was published by the London School of Economics and gives advice of a range of aspects from how to open an account to managing followers. And the second guide, that is complementary to the first, I think, provides 7 essential tips for academics on how to use Twitter. Both resources are very useful tools for scientists who wish to enter to the fascinating world of Twitter. And if you want to deepen about Twitter, I recommend reading these 3 articles, especially the third one, perhaps, by José Luis Ortega. Findings of this article reveals that articles published in journals with any sort of Twitter presence receive more citations than those published in journals with no Twitter presence. Well, this is the fourth verb, to connect. Here we have some good examples of tools to connect. Some of them are very popular. We have general networks, as for example LinkedIn, Facebook, and other specific ones related to academia and science. Researchers usually use or have professional profile in these three networks: LinkedIn, Academia.edu, and ResearchGate. LinkedIn is a very popular social network aimed at professionals and businesses, and it's useful for finding work, and at this moment has nearly 530 million of users. Academia.edu is a social networking site for academics with nearly 60 million registered users. It's an easy way to share papers. But in particular, I want to highlight this one, ResearchGate. ResearchGate is a social networking site for researchers to share papers, ask and answer questions, and find collaborators. The site has been described as a mashup of Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And it currently has more than 11 million users, including 45 Nobel laureates, with a predominant of users linked to the life sciences and health sciences. This slide shows the profile of a researcher who is in ResearchGate, the Dr. Pere Joan Cardona, and from the tabs we can see his publications, or we can access to his publications, information on his profile, and statistics on interest in his publication and his profile. It's like an examen in any way. But one of the most interesting uses of this network is that you can ask questions and stimulate debate. Regarding the specific area of materials, for example, in this case, a researcher opens a debate or a discussion, and these are the answers from two researchers. In my opinion, there are high-level discussions which tend to be very, very enriching. Finally, the importance of sharing. Well, these are some useful tools to share scientific knowledge. To share articles and presentations, you can use a SlideShare or Issue. For social bookmarking, I recommend Digo. Well, for very popular Flickr and Instagram for images, and YouTube for videos. And for bibliographic and data management, we have Zotero and Mendeley. And for video chats, Skype and the Google Hangouts. SlideShare is a slide hosting service to upload articles and overall presentations in file formats such as PowerPoint or PDF. It's a very popular tool, SlideShare, if you want to disseminate your research, because it is also very well positioned on search engines. If you have a SlideShare profile and somebody looks for your name in Google, your SlideShare profiles appears in the first position. Google Hangouts, video calling service from Google that allows up to 10 people to connect via video conference. In universities is widely used. For example, in the MIT, where discussions is is stimulated by the interaction between researchers through this tool. In this example, this is a hangout of 5 evolutionary biologists who meet virtually to discuss things, and after the discussion is concluded, they upload it on internet. Well, Instagram, very popular. This is the profile of ICMAB. And finally, I would like to introduce you a platform of video abstracts about research called We Share Science. We Share Science. This is a free platform for sharing short 3 to 5 minutes videos about research. Up to this point, most videos are based on research that has been published, but many discuss in-progress research or proposed research looking for funding. The video abstracts provide a brief introduction to the research, and after watching the video to determine if you'd like to learn more, you can then link to the journal article, find blogs about the study, or even review Facebook and Twitter comments. And also you can access to the old metrics of that journal. It's a very interesting resource to disseminate your research, in my point of view. Well, now we are coming to the final stretch. Are you ready to create, maintain, and enhance your new digital image? Anyway, before starting to use social media tools, I recommend setting a strategy, defining objectives, and exploring the tools. The worst thing you can do as a researcher or as an institution is start using social media without a clear vision of what you want to do with it. And social media is not a magic bullet that once you make an account, you suddenly have thousands of followers. Like any form of communication, it requires time and also requires cultivation of information. But let the leaders guide us. In the next slides, I will show you 10 golden rules of people who are authorities on the topic of how to increase your research competitiveness using 2.0 tools, Web 2.0 tools. The first one is Mike Altman, the Director of Research at the MIT Library. In this decalogue, he explains how to improve the reputation of a researcher in the early stages of their careers. Well, as you can see, some of the 10 golden rules are related to social networks. He mentioned LinkedIn, Slideshare, Twitter. And who is saying this? A scientist who occupies a position related to knowledge in one of the most prestigious institutions of the world. The second one is Giles Cozen from the University of Bristol. He recommends that as a researchers we must be present in many of the networks that we have mentioned, and he recommends also to do this, lurking. I suppose that you know what that means. It's something like gossip, lurking, to do lurking. A lurker joins to a virtual community, but in a merely receptive way. In a merely receptive role, not participating. That's the point. I think it's a good way to start, to do lurking. You must browse and do as others do, taking in best practices before moving on to taking part in the action. Lurking. So you are researchers, you post regularly your blog, individually or collectively, you update your Twitter account daily, and you have daily presence in social networks to disseminate your research. If you mix all these ingredients, What will the results be? Firstly, you are contributing to socialize scientific knowledge. Secondly, you are building up your personal brand and increasing your online reputation. Your research will get more visibility, impact and reach, and you will gain prestige and influence. In conclusion, your online visibility may yield interesting returns and benefit your research. Some slides for those who want to deepen and become researchers 2.0. This is an interesting article published in PLOS Biology, where Holly Vick and Miriam Goldstein of University of California explain how a scientist can harness the advantages of social media tools to increase the visibility of their research. They say in the introduction that although a number of guides exist online, many researchers still feel hesitant about the virtual world, lacking sufficient guidance through formal scientific channels, such as peer-reviewed journals. So they wrote these interesting articles to help them. A really good article. 3 book recommendations: Social Media for Academics and Communicating Your Research with Social Media. I think that provide clear guidance on effectively using social media for research purposes, from publishing your work and building networks to engaging the public. And cómo divulgar ciencia a través de las redes sociales, of Javi Polinario, the Community Manager of Universitat Rovira i Virgili. It's a very complete guide for a beginner in Spanish language. 3 more recommendations. Stacy Konkel especially, because this woman writes a lot in Altmetric blog, and she writes about altmetrics, and she writes very interesting articles. Social media en investigación. I want to mention also this repository, because Lydia Hill here has created a blog with a lot of articles interesting, and a repository with studies, resources and interviews with experts related to research and social networks. And finally, a selection of documents about Science 2.0 tools published by European institutions. I think that especially interesting for you can be the two last. If you have a project, in order to communicate it, there's a social media guide for your funded project that is small and very complete, and providing researchers with the skills and competencies they need to practice open science. I think that is very interesting also if you want to familiarize with open science. This is a new era, new paradigm that is coming. Final conclusions then, just finishing. Throughout this talk, we have seen the usefulness of Web 2.0 tools, such as blogs, Twitter, and other networks and repositories, to increase the visibility and the impact of scientific publications, and to create our personal brand as a researcher. In the end, blogs and Twitter supplement rather than replace traditional formats, we must confess, and act as tools for the promotion of one's own research to journalists, to colleagues, to students, and to the general public. What you see in the slide is a Time magazine cover of the last issue of 2006. That year, all of us were designated Person of the Year. And now, I think that we have before us a scenario which is more global than ever. And researchers currently have the power to innovate and create value in this global scenario. We are now in 2018, and in the current context, the presence of researchers on the Web 2.0 is, in my view, essential. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Xavier, for your nice talk. I don't know if there is questions from the audience.
Just say that these tools are useful for scientific
Yes.
research and so on. And it's complementary to conferences. How do you see these tools in 20 years? Not now, but in the future.
Thank you. I think that the relevance of these tools in the future will increase deeply, especially because now we'll start the era of open science. And one of the parts of open science is linked to that resources that can help to arrive the importance of research to society. Okay, so I think that there will be more and more relevance for these tools in the future, because these tools are very useful to disseminate science, to disseminate the research, and that this research arrives to the society. One of the steps of the open science, more important, is, for example, citizen science. Another step very important is how to disseminate the science using social media. And open science is something that is starting now and that will develop through years. I think that will be very long. Yeah. Yes. The importance will increase, I think.
Thank you. More questions?
I'm really protected and not much like these things because I'm too far from it.
Oh.
But I have a question that goes to some extent beyond you have said. The objective of all these tools
Yes.
is transferring, to some extent, not science to the colleagues, which is part of the business, because the impact can be monitored within the colleagues, so it's a reduced impact, well, to the society.
Exactly. See, two ways.
Yeah, exactly. So the one that goes into the colleagues is just a big supper, a big dinner, or bigger. But how do you monitor, or how the society monitor the increase of knowledge of science? How, at the end, science is transmitted to the society. Is
Yes.
there any tool to monitor that the knowledge, understanding science is increasing or not?
That's a good question. There are indicators that are very easy to obtain, as for example, number of activities related to citizen science. There are a lot of activities, as conferences, as mobile applications, that the society can use to help researchers. And these activities can be monitored. Yes, it's easy. You mean, how can we monitor these activities related to social networks, for example? See, yes.
I'm wondering if there is a real way to test if science has been communicated and reached really the people. And this is not just to make a fear of science, just the people, the understanding of of science increases or not?
Yes, yes, of course.
So if I go to the secondary school, I go to the university, I go to the cafe and the restaurant and I try to put the question, the understanding of the questions is better than it was in the past. That is understanding, but this is science, understanding people.
Yeah. Well, the social networks as Twitter or blogs are very easy to measure because you go to the number of retweets or to the number of likes. In Facebook is the same, yes. If you post something on ResearchGate or on Facebook, there are a lot of indicators that measure if your post has been successful or not. These are very good indicators, exist. But I think that you go beyond. Yeah. Then it depends if it is related to social networking, as we know, Twitter, Facebook, Research, etc. There are a lot of indicators. If there are physical activities as conferences or participation on a mobile application, there are also indicators. Only these things exist now. Yeah.
I think there is la encuesta de percepción social
yes.
de la ciencia.
Exacto. Sí.
That there's a survey around Spain, which was.
It's a very interesting survey, yes.
And every 2 years it publishes the understanding of science by people in Spain, if they are interested in science, what do they know. And in fact, this year the results came out last month or so. But apart from that...
Yes, this is a very interesting answer of Anna, because I follow this survey, because it shows that every year the interest of the society by scientific question is increasing. For example, one of the parameters that I always take into account is the percentage of the society that follows science information through social media, and at this moment is 35%. 35%. This can be a good indicator to answer your question. And this parameter is increasing year after year, yes.
Yeah.
Through surveys, yes.
Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
My question is a little bit related to that because the thing is, okay, you share your work, but what about the language? Because normally when you write an article, you write for your colleagues, as Ted said, and the language is arriving to your colleagues, and sometimes it's also difficult to understand for you as a scientist what the others say. So how you share this information to other people who are not in the field of...
Yeah, you mean that, for example, if you write in English, you have written a paper in English, the difficulty to arrive to Spanish or Catalan speakers, you mean?
No, simply the form of your expression, how you write your publication, because full of data, full of scientific terminology, normally people who are not used to that cannot understand.
Okay. You mean to arrive to the society, the content of your article, what to do in order to make it more simple. Yeah. Okay. Well, you have two targets when you write an article, your colleagues and the society. If you want to arrive to your colleagues, it doesn't matter. But if you want to arrive to the society, you must write in a more simple way. So you must use another type of language, more simple. You have a communication unit that can do this. Yes? Is this your question? The difficulty of that the content, the complex content of an article, scientific article, arrives to the society.
Sure, but there are sometimes some complexities you cannot avoid because you cannot talk, about
Yes.
a graphic that you are explaining.
Exactly, okay. Then in this case, I suggest you that the more important thing is that you talk about the impact. Impact will be another of the future paradigms. Now it's important to measure the impact on the society. What is your research useful for? You must talk about, not about the graphics, no, just the final objectives. I think that it's the best. The final objectives, or the final aim of your research. Talk about impact, yeah.
For the statistics you say, how do you distinguish between society and research?
That's impossible.
We are part of the society.
You mean, for example, in Twitter, for example, how many tweets are from a researcher or a citizen, not researcher? You mean that?
Well, we want to know the impact of the society. We have to distinguish between
No.
the media. With colleagues, we can share things by other media. So we use those to the society. So we want to know.
Well, then it depends, yeah, I understand your question. It depends on the channel. For example, if you have a Twitter profile, basically it will be a professional profile. So then the number of, probably the impact of your professional channel will be mostly on researchers. And if you write a dissemination article to the society in general, with another language, more simple, then most of the readers will be society in general. I think that you must measure, or the indicator is in function of the channel, depending on the channel. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yes, please.
Because just yesterday, I have no those things, but just yesterday I read that there were some frauds about influencers. Because it's possible to have more followers just by paying 10 euros or something like that. You can get phone numbers or, well, I don't know the details, but it seems that this is possible.
Yes,
So,
yes, it's possible, yes.
this will be, this is a channel of fraud insanity that will happen.
No, okay, this is true. It's real. But I think that in the scientific community, mostly are very honest. There are no cases. Obviously there are a lot of influencers, especially in the American, yes, in America, there are a lot of influencers.
Well, influencers and lobbies and all these kind of things, no? If you want to have your picture a winner, you will send mails to all.
Yeah. That's the reason why the old metrics always must complement, because perhaps there's a little percentage of fraud. But it's an interesting question. Some papers show that the most influent researchers in Twitter are also the most influential, the best researchers. There is a correlation between a good profile of Twitter with a lot of followers and an excellence as a scientist. Some studies conclude that. If you want, I can send you more questions.
So I'm talking, wondering a little bit what should do a research center concerning the social media. All you have been mentioning is something like individual actions, which are of course very good, but it's clear that the research center has something like a mission and a
Okay.
strategy and so on. And I guess that if you want to become a real influencer in a specific area, the research center should have a strategy of what are the kind of messages and what are the kind of tools that we use. And I don't know, if you are the research center in cancer, probably this is quite easy.
Yeah,
because
that's
you
it.
can just use one word and it
That's
works.
true.
But for other research centers, it's a little bit more complex to find a message that really reaches the society. And of course, I know that you will not give me an answer. It's something that each center should have. But it's clear that all this mass of things will never be possible. But all the 200 persons that we have in the institute control at present how to use all these things. But I guess that the research center can have the tools to use this in some way.
Yeah.
It's clear that we need to. We are completely ignorant of 90% of the things that you said today here. So I thought that I knew something, but now I realize that I knew only a very minor part of the things. And as a research center, I guess that we really need to have something like experts that help the people to define what are the messages that we need to generate as research centers. And once you have that, so probably then, as you said,
Exactly.
you become maybe not an influencer, but at least the reference of some kind of thing. And I guess that that's a quite tough.
Yes, the people, the researchers must be aware of the importance of this way of communications, of the new channels, and the institution perhaps should promote workshops, give some information, promote the importance of these new channels. Just they test it, and they probably will.
At the end, if you really define something like a few ideas or concepts that you want to promote, then it maybe it's easier to make a quantification of what the impact you had with these ideas. If you are promoting the knowledge of the cancer in the society, then when there is an analysis of the knowledge of the society about what's going on the cancer research, probably you are significantly influencing on this idea. So I think that we should have something like a few ideas where we want to be active, and then try to see if this message is the right way.
Yes, you are right. In the health case, it's easier. But I think that you do a lot of very interesting things, very useful. So I think that you must focus on the impact on the society of your research, because it has impact and it's very great. Yeah.
I will talk to you later. Well, so we'll leave it here. Thank you all for attending this seminar. I hope it was useful. And if you have any doubts about this, you can also contact me. And let's see what we can do. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gràcies.
Anna, penjaré la presentació
Sí, t'anava a dir.
Mira, d'entrada...
Sí.
Sí.